Perfect.
Okay.
So as usual, our pre-meeting chat session gets going, and we haven't started the recording yet. So the recording's on. It's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and start. First thing I'd like to do, I know that Steve Magnuson has a couple things to share with us. It turns out that maybe Dave, W7WDM, has something really interesting we can talk about there with a 220 radio. And did I miss? Maybe that's kind of it for now. But we do need to get new officers. And I have been on the phone and twisting arms, and I think I got a group of officers for us that we can bring up. But I'll go ahead and save that for later to give more people an opportunity to come on the screen before we say okay, and do that housekeeping. But has anybody else got anything that they would like to bring up tonight to share, questions or something to show and tell?
I have a brief presentation about zero retries topics.
Oh yeah, that's good. We want that. Okay. Let's see. You know, that might be a good place to start, Steve. Is right there. Do you want to share your screen or anything? You've got it. Go ahead.
I got just 3 topics this month, but didn't take a lot of time to prepare this. So Raspberry Pi is probably going to be available by late summer. New interesting project called a Beepberry, and M17 project has a new proof of concept piece of hardware called the OpenHT. So this has been confirmed on multiple fronts that Raspberry Pi units should start shipping and be available from the reputable retailers later this summer in quantity at the stated prices. You know, $35 for the basic unit, and including Raspberry Pi 4s and the compute modules. The demand is slightly slackening. There's greater availability of components, which was the main bottleneck, and they have increased production significantly by something like 15 to 25%. I don't remember the actual number. One of the reasons is that Sony, who manufactures Raspberry Pi units in the UK, bought an ownership stake in Raspberry Pi, is a minority stake, and that's given them more capital to work with. So that's really good news. Beepberry, speaking of Raspberry Pi, so this is a project that is replicating the form factor of the old Blackberries. This is apparently a serious project. I still haven't found a way to actually buy one of these, but people said that they've been able to get them in their hands. If you look on the right side in the upper half of the unit, that's a Raspberry Pi Zero, and it's designed to accommodate a number of the variants, obviously without the header. And if you get one of the units that has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, it's all in there in a handheld form factor. And it does include a battery, the flat pack, inexpensive batteries that used to be the standard in the flip phones. And so, and this runs, of course, this runs Linux.
Oh man, that is really remarkable. It looks just like a BlackBerry.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Huh.
So I'll post this PDF or I can't really. I can't do an attachment. Well, I'll send it out. I'll send out this PDF on the mailing list.
Okay.
You could put a link in the chat room if you want.
Yeah, I could do that. So this is the cool one. This is the M17 OpenHT. This is just been released in the last couple of months, and this is a software-defined radio that is in the form of a portable, will be in the form of a portable radio. Now, this is just a proof of concept article. This is not something that's, although they may actually make this hardware available for purchase if somebody decides to do this, spin this up. They're, they're still in the software development phase. So here's the sandwich, and here's the display side. And I've seen this with actual software running on this thing. So here's some of the particulars. If you haven't heard of M17, they are a project based mostly in Europe to create a open source equivalent of DMR. The whole stack, hardware, software, the protocol, infrastructure, etc. It's got some data features that, there's words in there, but I haven't seen that data is a priority at the moment. The reason they're making progress is they've gotten some money. They've gotten now 2 grants from ARDC to do development, and that's enabling them to do projects like this, where they can just spec it out and have it contract manufactured. It is actually a software-defined radio using the AT86RF215 transceiver chip from Microchip and Atmel. And because it's an IQ device, it can do a lot of different modes, FM, AM, basically it all devolves to software. Whatever you can figure out to do in software, it'll do it. And, and as we know from, what was the project? Various projects, it's all software now. Interesting choice of frequencies, 430 to 450 and 2.4 gigahertz, which I think the reason that they went 2.4 gigahertz was that they were thinking that it might be a good radio for uplinking to QO100, which has a 2.4 gig uplink. And amplifiers for 2.4 gig are available, not recommended for casual use, but they are available. This particular one has a transmit power of milliwatts. There's no power amplifier in this unit at the moment. So you're just getting the raw output from the chip. There's very little actual RF circuitry in this at the moment, no filtering, etc. They're going to be showing this off at the Ham Radio conference in Friedrichshafen this weekend. And the reason I'm up to speed on this is that I shot my mouth off one too many times about them not posting stuff on their website and posting in places like Facebook and other obscure corners of the internet where it's very easy to talk to your bros. And I said, you're harming your project by not having a reference posting on the website. And they said, well, you want to help? And I couldn't exactly say no at that point, having shot my mouth off. So I'm doing exactly that. I'm posting it on their website now. I'm taking stuff off of these obscure corners of the website and posting it on their obscure corners of the net in these conversational modes like Reddit, and putting it on their website. So not quite done with that project yet, but I will in the next couple of days. If you go to m17project.org and look at the news, you can see the stuff that I've been doing.
Oh,
And
very
that's about it.
cool. Is that, they have any plans to make, incorporate an MMDVM in there?
That's entirely possible. I mean, the hardware is easily capable of all that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow, that's impressive.
it is.
And
So
what is the physical size that we're looking at on this picture right now? Is it a,
it's handheld. It's, I mean, it would fit comfortably in your, well, stretch, you would be able to hold it comfortably in your hand.
okay,
Yeah. There,
so a
I don't,
smartphone, like a
yeah,
smartphone. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
They actually, somebody, the beauty of this stuff is that somebody throws out an idea, and um, somebody else runs with it, and there's actually a 3D enclosure there. I forgot to include a picture of that, but there's a 3D enclosure, and there's software running on this thing. It's really impressive. I'm amazed with their energy, and I guess now that they're freed, that they can pay for engineering, or various parts of engineering. When they get it to a certain point, they can just spin it up and take advantage of prototype production.
Wow.
Oh, and if I didn't mention it, this is entirely open source. Every bit of this is on their GitHub site.
Wow.
Isn't that an SMA connector sitting up at the top there for reference of scale?
Yeah.
It's tiny.
Yeah, that is very small. All right, very cool. Thank you. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thanks, Steve. Really interesting things going on there. So maybe it's time to switch to the other Steve. You got a couple things for us today.
I do.
We're gonna talk about controlling our radios.
Yeah, I released so some changes to the Kenwood script that I wrote to control the TMV71A or the TMD710. And let's see, I'm going to share my screen here. Right, so the changes are the major change I made is that I've made a release out of it. In GitHub, you can do releases of your software, and I've made a 710.exe program, so you can just download this and run it on Windows if you want. I had some requests to make this available on Windows. You do not need to install Python or any libraries or anything like that. You just download this exe and execute it from the command line, or make a shortcut on your desktop, however you want to do it. I also have instructions in the README here on how to make a binary for Mac OS. If you want to do that, it's quite easy to do, or a binary for Linux if you want. And the current release is available for Nexus users in the Nexus Updater, and nothing changes for the folks who are using it with a Nexus. You run it exactly the same way as you did before. The other change I made is and I don't remember if I mentioned this, but the previous version that I released supports the DigiRig sound card. It supports push-to-talk activation on the DigiRig. The most recent iteration of this that I just released a week or so ago is it now also supports the CM108 push-to-talk via GPIO. The CM108 is a chip manufactured by C Media that's used by the Master Communications DRA product line. They make a bunch of sound cards for amateur radio use, and they use the CM119A, which is part of the same family. And so I made a modification to support that. It'll use any of the GPIO pins. By default, the DRA products use GPIO3 on this chip. Now, I didn't want to spend the money to buy a DRA sound card just to verify my software works. So I went I went commando, as they say, and I had a couple of these chips, the same chip that's used on the DRA products. This is a little Saiba sound card, the innards of a
Steve,
Saiba
are you trying to
sound
show us
cards.
that?
Sorry, yes,
You
I
might
am.
turn your screen share
I
off.
have to, yeah, there's no way I can do that on, you can't do both at the same time, apparently, huh?
Well, your screen share takes over the whole screen.
Yeah, I guess
Oh,
it
I guess
does.
No,
we can
it
do it in
depends
our.
on how they view it, Steve. I was able to see here.
Yeah, so if you don't make my screen share the whole screen on your, when you can see both at the same time if you're interested. But anyway, I'll let me stop sharing.
Well, I'll try to find it in here. I've done it before because I'm recording, so I want to.
Yeah, some folks don't have the screen real estate to have both up anyway, so
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing
Okay.
momentarily. And so it looks like this. This is the it's quite small. This is a from a manufacturer called Saiba, and it uses this C-Media sound chip inside, the same sound chip that's used in the DRA Masters Communications products. And I had two of these that I bought a few years ago for $3 or $4 each. And the drawback is that it requires some extremely precise soldering because by default, the GPIO pins that are on this chip, this sound chips, are not available on the circuit board. In other words, the manufacturer never planned on using them, so there's no, readily accessible place to access them. But some intrepid hams out there have published numerous guides on how to, if you're brave with a soldering iron, and have the ability to tap one of these GPIO pins and use it to activate push to talk. So I was successful in making this modification, and I made this little gizmo here that has the modified sound chip in it. Inside, there's a transistor resistor circuit for activating push to talk, and it's driven by GPIO3 on this tiny little sound chip, which unbelievably has 8 GPIO pins in it. It's really remarkable. And then I wired that to an RJ45 plug that I mate with the RJ45 coupler, and then that goes to the Mini DIN 6 connector on the radio. So this is a sound card with push-to-talk, hardware push-to-talk built in. So I made this to make sure that my modification of the Kenwood program would work with this sound chip GPIO. And it does. So, but I wanted to ask if any of you out there have a DRA, one of the DRA series sound cards from Master Communications. I would really appreciate you downloading my program and verifying that it does actually work with that product. I don't know if anybody here has one. Does anyone have a product? Steve, you have one?
I have two, actually.
Oh, good. Okay.
Steve, I'd rather just loan them to you for verification because I just don't have the time to work on them right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'll get with you offline and we'll
Sounds
arrange
good.
something. That's great. Okay. Was there something else? Oh, I wanted to, well, I was going to mention, but all the good stuff has already been sold. Marty Lynam, Silent Key, God rest his soul, had donated all of his ham radio gear to the ham radio community in the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office. In particular, the family asked us to take all of his radio gear and do with it what we want. So I spent a few hours over at the EOC about a week ago, combing through his stuff, and we believe there's still more stuff at his house I don't think we found it all, but we found probably the majority of it. It's over at the EOC, and I combed through it, and I found a good amount of radio gear, some of which we're going to press into service at WCSO, ACS, and other gear we're going to be selling at Field Day. There'll be a table there. But there were some Raspberry Pi components that I posted online, and I was going to mention it here, but I should have realized that stuff was going to sell out within 15 minutes, and it did. There were 3 Raspberry Pis. Actually, there were 4 Raspberry Pis. I sold one before I even got it posted, and the other 3 immediately sold.
Oh, and
through
you mean
Groups.io.
immediate too.
Oh gosh,
I got the message 20 minutes too late.
Yes, right. So I do have a couple of Raspberry Pi 4 power supplies left, and that mini keyboard and mouse. If anyone is interested in it, if I don't hear any takers, then they'll probably end up at the table at Field Day. If you're interested in them.
I'll take the power supply with the switch.
Randy will take the power supply with the switch. Okay, can you send a reply to that posting on groups.io?
Sure.
That way I keep a record of who's going to get what.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll make sure that you get that. All right, that leaves just 2 Raspberry Pi 4B power supplies left. So just reply to the thread there on the digital group if you're interested in either of those products. That's it. That's all I had, Bud.
Okay. Well, I have some questions that you can help me and help us with. If I move some stuff around here, I'm going to share a screen and see if we can cover some loose ends here. We were during the net this morning. I had to mess around with trying to get this guy to run. This is the remote control. Just a little background on this. I've moved my entire digital station out to my shop, and I'm running it remotely using real VNC. So during the net, we've got our group meets on Zoom Tuesday morning, and we coordinate our check-in and all of that on Zoom. And I was setting it up to run the digital traffic, and I ended up having to restart my my Raspberry Pi out there. For one, I wasn't getting this window, and it threw me for a while until I remembered that I need to open a command window and then type a command to get that window to come up, which I completely forgot about. So when I remembered that, everything was fine. In the end, I actually had to go clear out to the shop to twist the knob. But if I wanted, Steve, if I wanted to, when I launch FLdigi so that we could run the Net Tuesday and FLmsg, have it automatically start the rig control. Is it as simple as this is the window for Autostart in FLdigi? Is that going to do it, or do I have to have this manager running for this to work? Right.
Excellent question. So the HamLib rig control screen that you have up there in the upper left, that is not used at all. You do not want to use, you don't want to use that at all. So if it's running, do stop rig control D because you're not going to use that.
Well, that's good to know. I just got to remember it.
Yep.
Okay, so that puts us back then. Is this going to do it? I could close this and test it. I had almost gotten to that point.
Yes, that should do it. However, if you have more than one serial port active on your Pi, do you?
I don't think so. Let's test and see if it comes up. Look at there.
Okay.
Very
Then I was
nice.
going to say fine, and it'll work just fine. The reason is that if you don't specify the serial port on the command line or as an argument after 710.py, it'll use the first serial port it finds and it'll attempt to use that to connect to the radio.
Should we put something in there just to be safe? Or let it,
If you want to, sure. I guess the drawback, the problem you run into if you connect a second a USB serial adapter, for example, to your Raspberry Pi, it's not guaranteed to get the same identification like /dev/tty USB 0 unless you add something using udev, which I have instructions for on my GitHub site for the Kenwood script. Tells you how to do that if you want to. But
So-
if you're certain that you're not going to attach any other serial device to this, you're safe leaving it the way it is.
I'll leave it the way it is. And then the other thing that I would like to do here is when I launch FLdigi, I would like to have it launch FLmsg. But they don't give us that choice here. None of these are anything that I'm interested in, although there's FLrig. But so I would be interested in going, what I need to put in here, for example, I can get rid of this one. That would automatically bring up FLmsg when I launch FLdigi.
Okay.
And I can give you control on my keyboard if that would expedite things.
Sure. So this is the Nexus, obviously. Are you using the left or the right?
I'm using
Radio.
the left.
On the left. Okay. So what you would do, I actually need to look at my.
Steve, couldn't he launch both the 710 Pi and the FLdigi in that program too by using a semicolon?
Yeah, you can do both on the same line.
Oh,
If
really?
you want. Yeah. In Linux, you can do that. Yes. Or
Did not
in
know.
Unix.
Does that require a space after the semicolon or just?
Well, you would put
No, I don't think it does.
one of the things I discovered. How is this been updated to the most recent, or are you still running the old Pulse audio?
I might be. I don't remember, Galen. It might be.
Well,
I
it
need
makes
to build a whole new image, but
because I just went through this with updating the Ferndale Police Department pies. The code that we had been using, which Steve had set up, I think, but when we tried to, I had to. It was launching a desktop file, and the newer version did not work using that approach. The desktop file would not execute. So what I did is I extracted the contents of the desktop file, the execute portion, and I put that directly in there, and that works. So I don't know why that would be the case, but it was not launching FLmsg until I extracted that portion and put it in.
So when you said you put that in there, are you talking about the Autostart?
In the Autostart, what I did is I went to the desktop file that was being used, and Steve's got a rather lengthy trim and all sorts of a bunch of commands in a series that execute to properly label and do a bunch of things. And it's all nicely hidden in that desktop file. But if you just extract the execute module, the lines from that execute, that desktop file, it launches and does all the stuff that he wanted it to do. I don't know how to make it any clearer.
Well, it sounds like a good project for us to work on later in the week or something.
Yeah, it's not difficult. You just have to find the desktop file. And like I said, it works fine in the prior version when we were using, but for some reason, when we updated the, I don't know why, that's something that
Yeah.
maybe Steve would have an insight into if he got a chance to look at it, but I just went and brute forced it because I don't have that subtlety.
So after you installed the latest image on that, Galen,
The
did you do
latest image, it was,
Okay, did you do
doing the
did you do
latest
a-
image.
right, but did you do a restore of your home folder from the
Yes, I
previous
did.
image? That's why it didn't work. The previous, you had to go in and modify it because it was using the start method for your old image, because that's stored in your home folder. So when you restored your home folder, it put the old start information in to launch in Autostart in FLdigi. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So-
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, you may have. I don't know. I don't quite understand.
Yeah,
I think as far as my situation goes here, I'm not going to go too deep into this because I really, really do have to just come up with a whole new image. I've got an anomaly in ALSA Mixer that we have never been able to sort out. And that's the PCM setting always falls to like 20 anytime I reboot the computer. And I have to go in every single time and bring that back up, or my transmitter comes on, but I'm not putting out any audio. And and I can go in and make changes to other settings and restart the Raspberry Pi, and those changes are there, but not the PCM. And for some reason, somewhere, it wants to throw it down to the bottom of the scale, and I don't get any audio out. So I think the logical thing for me to do is just start with a fresh card and rebuild the whole thing from the ground up.
Well, that's what I'm going to be doing this week or soon. I'm waiting for the new cards to arrive, and I'm going to redo all my cards and abandon the old and adopt the new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but getting back to what you want to do though, when you eventually get your new image, if you run FLmsg -H from a terminal,
Yeah.
it'll bring up a window with the command line options.
That's a help. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And there's one of the arguments you can supply is -FLmsg-dir. And what you'll want to do there is put the full path to where your left radio FLmsg stuff is. I think it's called .mbems-left, if I recall. I might have that wrong.
So yeah, so you're setting the directory
Yeah.
for FLmsg.
Yep.
Okay, well, I won't try to remember all that. I wrote some notes down here, but we'll cross the bridges as we come to it. But I can see that at least getting the rig control to come up when I start the program that'll be nice, because
Okay.
then I don't have to remember, oh, I gotta
Yeah.
open the window and
So the other thing you want to do, maybe you've done this already, is you want to make sure that you have FLdigi set up to use FLrig, because the Kenwood script to FLdigi, the Kenwood script looks like FLrig.
okay, so that would be
Under rig control in FLdigi.
come on. And is this what we're talking about here?
That's correct. Yeah. So you wanted that very top checkbox. It says enable FLrig.
Okay,
You
that
wanna
needs to be
check-
checked.
Yep.
And, but it's not checked, but it's been working.
It's been working, but if you check that, it will sync the frequency that appears.
Oh, on the display.
Yeah, correct.
Gotcha.
If that's something you want, it's not
No,
necessary,
so
but
I might think about that because in the past, all I've been running is FSQ, and that was just a bunch of real estate that I didn't need.
oh, so you just shut it off. Yeah, well, then you
Because-
don't need it. Yeah.
But now that I'm switching around, then maybe I do want it. So because I'm changing frequencies for the various modes and stuff that we're doing, I'll play around with that. But yeah, okay, I'll leave that checked and save it.
Okay.
And thank you.
Hmm.
Well, that covers, I guess, the two things that I had here. And anybody else have any questions or?
You wanted me to talk about that new
Oh,
radio?
yes, thank you, Dave. Yes, Dave, tell us about what you've been doing with 220.
Well, Galen got me started thinking about, our FLS, the Ferndale ACS, we're going to start going more toward the 220. And all I've got is a handheld, which a lot of people, that's all they have. So I wanted to look at a fairly inexpensive way to go 220. But I wanted something like the, Kenwood to be able to do digital. And so what I found was a THY or a TYT, the TH9000D is a 220 radio. I got it for $158.84 on Amazon. So $150, it's not bad. And then through RPC-Electronics, and there's links to that in the chat already. They have an adapter you can buy for a 6-pin mini DIN to add into it. The radio is already set up for it. You just take the cover off and plug it into the radio, and then you screw this mini DIN to the back of the radio, and it's ready for it. There's holes for the screws. There's a hole for where the wires come out. It's all set, and you should be all ready for digital. And so I've got the radio. I've got a new Edfong 220 antenna, which was like $45. Thank you, whoever put that up.
That's
Uh,
me. I'm trying
And
to
so
figure out
for
where that noise is coming from.
$220, I'm going to be pretty much set for digital on 220. Haven't done it yet. This part that is up on the thing is still on its way here. The guy didn't get it, didn't see my order when I placed it, and so he supposedly has sent it. So it should be here within the next week. But it's pretty much, according to everything I'm seeing on the video on the screens that are up here, just a plug and play. The plug's already in the radio. Everything's already all set. You just plug in this new wire that's pointing at there, screw it back to the back, and you're set. I've still got to do some playing around, and once I get it, I'll contact Steve and make sure I'm doing everything right. But for under just around $200, or what, 160, $180 if you already have an antenna. And
Is this the radio?
Pardon?
Is this the radio?
No,
Which one is it? It's
no, that's you want the TH9000D.
let's see if it's on the list here.
And so if you keep an eye out for those radios, they oftentimes will vary. More often than not, they'll be on sale for $99. So I ended up getting a handful of them. I think I've got a couple VHFs, a UHF, and a 220. So, and have also got those plugs. They work out really well.
And I made sure to get it with the cable. I paid $158.84 with that shipping. No shipping is over $100, but that was with tax. And I used the programming CD that they send wasn't worth crap, so I checked with Chirp. Chirp has a brand new update that is good for this radio, and it worked fabulous. So I've got about 15 different 220s from anywhere from 8 miles away to 30 for 45 miles away that I'm starting to play with the radio. And when I get the other part, we'll hook it up and see if we can do digital.
The other thing is, I know that CD, the software CD, yeah, like you said, it didn't work that great. But on TYT's website, they do offer the programming software, and I've done it both ways. Both actually do work out pretty good. And then that wire or that radio and that conversion that I'm aware, those first kind of came to be as a cheap option to build 220 repeaters because the
Yes.
Alinco radios were so expensive. So that was kind of where they came to be. And then guys from there started modding them. The UHF models started building GMRS repeaters with them, and they've only just taken off in popularity. So they're pretty robust, and their power rating actually comes out, last I checked, a little above its advertised wattage. So they pack a punch for a little cheap. Like I said, $199.99 unit if you catch one on sale.
I also have two of those radios, and yes, they got more power than most of the 220 radios I've run into, and they're pretty nice. They're kind of a goofy buttons on them. They're just numbered, so you got to kind of memorize what button goes to what. But otherwise,
it is a little
nice
interesting
radios.
trying to do that. But I figured I'd just do programming through the computer, get everything there that I want, because there's only so many. Unless somebody comes up and says, "Oh, we're going to switch and go to Simplex and go here," then I'll have to figure out how to do this again. So, but it was a cheap way to get into the 220 for a base station, and hopefully it'll work. We'll let you know next month. It looks like Steve Stroh's got a share screen or something.
Yeah, Steve, all we're getting is a black screen.
There we go. That's all I got. It was just kind of an update on
Hey,
a
well, that's
new one.
great, Dave. Wow. Do I need another 220 radio? Who knows? But something in the Go kit maybe, but it'd be fun to play around with some digital stuff on 220. And of course, the advantage to that would be if you're in a situation where you need to run, say, voice communications on. Well, it's another band that's not going to interfere with either UHF or VHF. That is going to wipe out your radio when all of a sudden you're sending digital data when you didn't anticipate it. So that's the way to go.
Granted, I end up losing my Go kit antenna on the roof for UHF, VHF. I took that down and put the 220 one up, but I don't really need two antennas up there for it anyway.
It'd be interesting to see what kind of propagation we get on 220. I know that we do way better on VHF with FSQ, for example, than we do on UHF. We've run some experiments with it and found out it just the 440 just doesn't cut the mustard to talk where we're trying to talk, and but it becomes.
I was getting you just great with that headphone antenna up there. It's just on the top of the house.
Yeah, well, we were going through a repeater on Mount Constitution, weren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what we got on Simplex.
No, I can speak on behalf of the WECG machine. I know it. I think when we went up and tested it when the amplifier blew, we were getting a half a watt out of the amplifier when it failed. And we were doing some radio testing with some people out in the county. They're like, "Oh, it sounds great. You said there was something wrong." And so the 220 in the county, it works well. And now that instance, it's up on the site. But between that machine, which sits dormant fairly often, It's might be getting used a little bit more here and there. And then the King machine, just sitting there. Yeah, there's lots of great 220 assets, let alone simplex. So it's a good opportunity to have some fun.
So Andy, question for you. The UHF and VHF variants of this TYT product that Dave was talking about, have you popped the cover off those to see if it has that same connector in it?
It's exactly the same. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah. And
Steve,
then you can get into them. That's what the guys really like about them is the UHF one. You know, the people who don't like this, plug your ears. They swing it up to GMRS and they use them up there and really have a lot of fun. So that, because that's has tremendous popularity right now.
so Steve Stroh was saying that the same, and you just confirmed it, that the innards look identical between the models. So I'm curious though, this company that Dave found that sells this data connector, I wonder why they only market it for this particular model, this 9000D model, and why don't they market it for the UHF and VHF models too? It seems odd that they wouldn't.
Steve?
I think they'd sell more.
I think it's the same reason why you wouldn't want to maybe go advertise your services out publicly, Steve, is you get bombarded with people and questions, right? So it's trying to control your audience a little bit.
Oh, could
Steve,
be.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
The reason is that the only reason that there's an interest in that particular radio for data is that there wasn't a very good option for 220 on data. There were plenty of options for data on 2 meters and 440 with the TMV 71A. Just there wasn't any real demand.
Well, fair enough. But now that those radios are no longer sold or available new,
Right,
you would think there would be a market for it. So
well, they did. Yaesu did step into that void, and with the, I think it's called the
88 and 8900, I know have
it's
data
the
connectors.
8600D or something like that. They have a new dual band radio that, you know, kind of fills that niche with a data connector. It just doesn't have the remote control capability of the V71.
Oh, okay. Is it new like in the last year?
Yes, it is.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
It's
I'll have to look
released this
that up.
year, actually.
Okay.
Mentioned
That's all I got,
prominently
Doug.
in my newsletter, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, cool stuff. Anybody else out there got anything for us?
I do.
Okay,
Well,
go ahead, Rob.
as you all know that our Groups.io website is lacking in everything. And I'm not really happy with it. But and this is for the main group as well, not just the digital, but after field day, I'd like to start putting up a regular website. Probably it's going to be probably WordPress based, and I'd like to include a bunch of amateur radio information for, say, for testing, for links to other amateur radio like blogs and informational sources. I mean, you name it. I need some ideas from all of you of what to include in this website, and I want it to be pretty inclusive of all sorts of stuff that people would be interested in. Might not have to be even amateur radio. It could be electronics, could be something kind of related. I mean, I don't want to get into knitting or anything like that, but you know, something that is kind of related to amateur radio. But I mean, all the amateur radio definitely I mean, I've got a huge list of stuff that I've been compiling that I want to include, and including links to like all the ham fests around the country or world, information on was it fox hunting, POTA stuff, you name it. I just need some input from all y'all, what you would like on it, and any help that you guys would love to contribute. I will happily take and put that up as I'm building this. It's going to take a while, but I mean, not once I get it up, I'm going to have it available to all of you. So you could probably add stuff without even, if you know how to use WordPress, it's got some really cool, admin tools, and it's pretty easy, straightforward. So I don't know if you all think that's a great idea or not, but let me know. I'd love input. Ed?
I was going to say, most of the questions I get are people looking for stuff that was on the old site. So the stuff that's not outdated on the old site, you could probably transfer a lot of that over and fill up a little bit there. So,
well, I did run a spider before we took before the other one went away on the old website, and I'm hoping I got everything. I put a copy of that up on archive.mbark.org, I think is where it's sitting right now, which redirects to one of my other sites, but it should be up there. And whatever's not on there, I did not get, unless it's buried somewhere deep and the links didn't make it to the content. I tried to get as much as I could off the old site, because I don't think I had the login for the actual back end on that one. So
Yeah,
so
you probably weren't missing much on the back end.
Probably not.
I had access to it, and all it was a Google site, so it was just the editing stuff for it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
yeah, you didn't. There's no private pages or anything.
Well, that's good then. So it should have got everything. In fact, it got a bunch of copies of things because apparently the software that I used wasn't smart enough to put everything back together again. Multiple links going to the same. Anyways, so but
So-
yeah, I could move a lot of that stuff over that I have over to the new site. Maybe throw it in the archive section, or if it's still relevant, put it just in the main areas. So if you guys have ideas for that, let me know. Email them to me. It's my call sign at gmail.com or robsipes@gmail.com. And
we probably could start an email chain on the IO site, so then that way everyone can see what has been already suggested, and then you just look at the entire list there and just start copying and pasting.
okay, yeah, like I said, I won't get started on that until after field day. I'm kind of swamped until then, but so I'll initiate that, and I'll throw out all my ideas on there, and then we'll run with it after that. And I'll just start throwing stuff up on the website, and then I'll make the back end available to you guys, so you can add things without even my input or whatever, if that's okay with everybody.
So you said sorry, you said no sewing or quilting or whatever?
Knitting.
What about cross stitching?
If well, apparently that's related.
This is still a few years in the making. I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, but are you gonna knit the key in the corner for the resistor codes?
Well,
black, brown, red,
that's what this is right here.
Orange. Yeah, but it's pretty colors. But
yeah, but I haven't.
There's no numbers. Yeah, I know.
The numbers will come. I as you can see, I still have to do the suite, and
it looks nice. I like that. That's cool.
That came from, I think it was Adafruit. They
Leave it to
have
Art
the,
to associate sewing with the no, just
it's not sewing, it's
Not
cross
yet.
stitching.
cross stitching. Sorry, my bad. I know. As you can tell, I don't do any of that stuff. So my fingers just,
Yeah, but we do it all. We're the digital group.
Doesn't Galen do knitting? Or is it crocheting? Galen, you're not talking.
he's ignoring you.
I was gonna say, he can make us all radio covers.
I thought he carved walking sticks.
I do walking sticks. I'll beat you about the head with one. How about that?
So anyhow, that's all I got for that. So
Okay, Bud, don't forget, you got to get to your election stuff.
That's what we're gonna do next. And
Quick announcement for in-person hybrid meeting.
Yeah, you want to talk about that, Mark?
I can do it fairly quick. We have permission. I got off my butt and I went and talked to the people at the Ferndale Fire Department, and the chief gave us a blessing for a trial run. They got to see if we fit good and we can see if we like what we have going there. Up at the Church Road Firehouse, they have this huge room with a huge bunch of conference tables with a big screen TV. So, and it's all set up to go zoom in and zoom back out. It's got multiple microphones to set around on tables around the room so that everybody can be heard. When somebody wants to come in, either a guest and or like if somebody can't get there, like Joe Trimble, who doesn't drive at night especially, or if Bud's not up for driving because of, you know, his oxygen bottle and so on and so forth, they can be at home and yet they can still participate. I've got it tentatively arranged for the main group on the second Tuesday and on the third Tuesday for the digital group starting in September.
That sounds like something worth trying. I won't. It'll be a while before I can attend a meeting in person, but I'll certainly sit down and hold the fort at home.
That way, maybe we can get some of the people back that haven't been joining us on Zoom because they, for some reason, don't want to do it.
Well, yeah, that's a good deal. I'm excited about that.
It's a nice place. There's, I don't know, we'll find some place to park everybody if we have a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Church Road up there is pretty wide open.
Okay.
And there is some parking space, so it'll be fun. We can get it rolling.
All right, well, let's talk about officers. And I got on the phone and made some calls, contacted a lot of people, got all the usual, no, I can't do it, turn downs. But I have come up with some names for us. I just have to step back and do less, especially if it involves talking. And so I will not be stepping up to be president anymore. And I've talked to Steve Stroh, and he has said that he'd be glad to come back and do that again. He did an excellent job a little over a year ago. We kind of switched back and forth. So so far I've got his name in as president. And then we've got Art here, who has volunteered to be his backup guy to cover the meeting if Steve's not available. So we've got Art as a VP, and then we're going to keep Mark as a treasurer because of the fine job he's doing, but also it just logistically works well to have one treasurer for both groups, and then we don't have to do all kinds of paperwork to change names on accounts and things like that. And then we're trying to remember who our secretary is, and I think it's you, Rob. Yeah, it is. And it is one of those things where most of these, with the exception, say, of the president, these are just names on a list. It's not like there's really anything that a person needs to do. And so if you're willing to continue with that, Rob, we could do that. If not, I convinced myself that we're recording the meetings and I'm doing the recording. So I'm willing to push the button and call myself treasurer or the secretary, but I'd be happy to put your name on the list as a continuation. Are you also an officer in the main group too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will be here shortly, the president.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Cool. So if you want to keep that hat or you want me to take it over, just let me know.
Well, that's if somebody wants to take it, that's fine. I'm happy to continue on.
Okay.
So
Very good. And then none of you guys are locked in yet because I'm now throwing it open to anybody else that would like to take a stab at any one of these positions. We can flip coins, vote, we can work it out. So if there's another person here in the group that would like to be on this list, you can say so now. Boy, I just inundated with all of that response.
so many volunteers.
So I would entertain a motion to install the slate of officers. Do I need to read them again? Steve Stroh, President, Art, Vice President, Mark, Treasurer, Rob continues Secretary. Somebody want to go with a motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, okay, so there's a motion and a second. It sounds like it's the done deal. I think I heard the train whistle blowing, so we'll call that a done deal.
I was also going to mention to everybody that we keep talking about how the hospital is going to be expanding. Well, this morning they put up a sign in front of the hospital that shows you what the expansion is going to look like. So if you're interested, kind of drive through their parking lot there, and they've got a big sign just put up this morning that shows what the new hospital is going to look like. They got too much money.
Would that be like the old hospital, but some new parts?
Yeah, they're building onto the front of it. But I guess they'll have the helicopter base on top of on top of this part. That way they don't have to charge people the ambulance fee to go from the helicopter to the hospital. Yeah, they got too much money too.
Well, considering the last bill I got from the for my trip to the ER, yeah, they do have too much money.
Yeah.
Most of it's arts.
Well, thankfully it wasn't too bad, but still what they charge, it's quite a bit.
What, they're not going to dedicate a wing for you?
Nope, I wish.
I'll call it quits. We're gonna say 7 threes, everybody, and good luck on field day.